this button will make the thing start to work, and then we can start the talking.
Oh, the talking? Okay.
The talking, yes. Welcome to the show, Joel. 2025, man.
Thank you. You
How are
too.
you?
Welcome into the year 2026.
Bienvenidos. ¿Cómo está?
Yeah, 2026.
Yes. I talk about the next year after the current one. You talk about the current year.
Oh, okay.
I hit them high, you hit them low.
And there we go. You're Kyle and Joe.
Oh! So, California's on fire again.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah. California's on fire. Which I guess isn't really news. It's just sort of like, oh, hey, look, it's been a while, so I guess it's time to have another deadly fire.
Pretty much. It's been it's been a year. Okay, it's 2025. Yeah. Let's start it off.
Somebody should tell Gavin Newsom that water puts out fire. Like, I feel like that would be helpful.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Wait. Are you a biologist? Listen.
Badoom-tsh. Yeah.
You're not in the position
I heard
of power,
that there's like
this.
this.
A biologist.
Sorry, what?
You have to be a biologist, okay? To speak on anything like that.
Okay.
You have to be an expert in whatever field it is to talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we can't talk about anything.
What are you trying to say? But we're gonna tell you our opinions anyways, because it's our show. Dang it!
Fire it up.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not making light of the situation, okay, people? We understand it's devastating out there.
Yeah.
Homes, and we do obviously want everyone to be okay. You know, we don't want harm to people. Of course, we want people to be okay. We want people to be safe and people to be able to evacuate and all that. So
we don't want the flames of unrest to explode in the comment section.
Exactly. We don't want that. So, this has been going on year over year, over year, or I don't know. It's countless now, but you just got to think, what's going on?
Yeah, it's like they still have trees to burn down. It seems like every time it's like, oh, you guys still have trees? God, I guess they have a lot of trees.
Guess so.
Yeah, or maybe they grow back.
They want the trees to look like this.
That's what I got for Christmas this year.
Oh, good.
Yep, tastes like chocolate.
Well, good.
Yep.
Speaking
of, I heard that
there's
a river that comes down through California, and it was like this thing where like if you dam it up, then you can collect that water, but they're supposed to let it spill out into the Pacific rather than like use it, even though it's like fresh, clean water or something like that, where they have like this like really, really good water source that's coming through, but they don't do anything with it. They just
isn't
let
it like because
out.
It's to protect some type of animal or something?
Yeah, there was like an endangered species of animal or something that like apparently if you let the water flow naturally, it can survive or something. I don't know. I don't remember all the specifics. I just thought it was kind of dumb. It's like, all right, 95% of every animal that's ever existed is extinct. So what's one more?
And we don't even know what it is. So are you going to miss it? Are you going to really miss it?
Well, I'll you know what? There's a thing called Google, so let's do that. Let's see. In California. Animal that's endangered in California. Restricting use of water. Okay, there's a list of fully protected animals under california.gov. 7 most endangered California species we need to protect. Maybe I'll find it on here. Oh, it's a pretty puppy. The gray wolf. Okay, that one you can make a case for, because the gray wolf is like the father of all dogs. Near extinction from California in the 1920s. Not listed as endangered in the state until 2014. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Making a return to California completely on their own. Source population in other states. Let's monitor the California Endangered Species Act. I didn't know they were endangered. I love gray wolves. They're so pretty. The California
Yeah, they're wolves and
condor.
they're gray.
The desert slender salamander. Nah.
Ah.
The giant kangaroo rat.
Ew.
Okay.
You imagine a rat the size of a kangaroo, giant.
I think it's a kangaroo the size of a rat. Is what it looks like.
Oh.
Yeah. It walks on 2 legs, but it looks like a rat.
Ew. Like Splinter.
Yeah, like Splinter. That's a good comparison. San Joaquin kit fox, Franklin's bumblebee, Lange's metalmark butterfly.
Huh.
So I think it's one of those.
You think?
Maybe it was like the salamander or something. It wasn't the wolf. I think I would have remembered if it was the wolf. Because I love wolves.
Yeah, you do.
Species.
Wolves are sweet.
Yeah, I don't see it. Maybe my Google foo is not very good today. But yeah, there's like a animal that they're trying to protect or whatever, or something like that, and that's why they can't redirect the water or use it to put out fires and stuff.
Right. They want to protect the animal and not the people.
Right. Yeah, because people die in these large fires. So that's.
Oh, you know what it is though? People are animals and they're not endangered. There's too many people. So,
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Population control. It really is very pervasive when you look into it. I mean, we could have a whole episode on population control methods.
Boom, done. It's happening right now.
We could have a whole podcast. I mean, abortion, euthanasia, just so many different things.
Chemicals being sprayed in the air, chemicals in the water, chemicals in our food.
Fluoride. Yeah.
Medications.
Vaccinations. The coronavirus. The rabbit hole goes deep, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole episode for sure.
Yeah. Or a few series.
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks, we will have to start talking about for AI/dystopia. We'll have to do a couple episodes on the Hunger Games because my brother bought me the entire Hunger Games four-book set for Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a few of them on my Amazon wish list.
Huh.
Because I want to collect a bunch of dystopian novels, and I have a feeling that the Hunger Games will become a classic at some point. I don't think it's old enough to be a classic yet, but
people really like the movies. They love the series.
And so it seems like, I mean, I've been enjoying the book so far. I haven't gotten too far into the first book yet, but it seems like it reads really well. There's some books that
that was out before the movies, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some books that I just can't really like Lord of the Rings. I was able to get through The Hobbit, but I just wasn't able to get through the Fellowship of the Ring. There's a couple times that I tried, and I was just like, I just don't like the way he goes through things so slowly. But as an audiobook, I was like, oh, this is much better. Like having it read to you. Partly because Andy Serkis does a really good job at narrating, and I've probably mentioned this before, but anyways, that's a rabbit trail.
Feel like you're at a circus. Also, which is entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, the movies were really well done, So to me, it would be difficult to go read them when like the movies seem to be. I mean, those were really excellent, Lord of the Rings. So I don't know.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time too. I mean, now if you were to watch them, you'd be like, oh, that's like good, but we have better stuff now. But it's one of those things where it's like people don't realize that are younger. Like younger generations are not going to be able to appreciate how good it is. Just like how
Just like the
like
Matrix.
I wasn't around when the original Star Wars trilogy came out. So I will never be able to appreciate episodes 4, 5 and 6 like people did when they first came out cuz they were way ahead of their time with all that technology.
Yeah.
You know, and Lord of the Rings was the same way. I mean, it was one of the really the first times that people had made a big film and did a serious usage of motion capture technology. Gollum was mocap. He was mocapped, and that was one of the first times that they really done that in a serious way, and really kind of pioneered motion capture tech.
Pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the recent Planet of the Apes movies. That's all motion capture.
Excellent.
And do really good with it. The technology improves over time, just like anything else, I guess. Speaking of technology, how is AI going to rule the world in 2025
Ah.
and maybe 2026? We actually got an article on this one. Oh, wait, were we going to talk about something else? I feel like we were going to talk about something else. Oh, California fires was like politics slash religion. So we'll revisit the California fires. But I forgot we were going to talk about the H1B visas again, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because I found out some more stuff about them, and I think
What'd you
you did
find out?
too, right?
What'd you find out?
Well, so there definitely seems to be some disagreement about like what they are, what what they are, and what their purpose is. Um, and so I think generally my view, and this really comes down to what you think America should be. So this issue actually goes really deep because um, when I'm listening to people talk about this issue, and I try to listen to people from both sides of the aisle on this H1B visa thing, it seems like ultimately it comes down to should America continue to look like what it was when it was founded, or should it progress and slowly change over time um, as you know populations change and different ethnic groups change in percentages, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so there's some people that think that essentially like well America is a like mostly white country and we should view it like a European country. Like if you think about a European country, you wouldn't want a country in Europe to all of a sudden be more than 50% something other than you know white. And I think that makes sense too for
Well,
Europe.
they already lost that.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Um, I think that kind of makes sense for Europe at least, but that's their argument is that America should be like that too. That we should continue to maintain that. Um, and then there's people who think that no, like we're just America. We're a multicultural country, and that's just who we are. Um, and I think I'm actually more on the latter side of that. That I think, and maybe you know the rabbit trail goes really deep on that. So I you know there's always mixed motives of why people are trying to you know put more of certain people groups into America. Like we already were talking about how they're trying to pump in migrants from you know like Mexico and other South American countries and stuff, or not other South American countries, but you know other countries that are below us, um, and coming into the country illegally, and the Democrats are trying to use large numbers of those people to get more votes so that they can have more control over the population and stuff like that. So I think we've kind of already talked about how they were trying to do that, but um, I don't know if that's really the goal with the H1B visas, so to speak. I think some people are conflating those two things. I don't think that they are completely without their negatives either, but I think I kind of finally figured out where I stand on this topic, because I think last time I was a little bit on the fence about it, and I think ultimately I don't really view America as a white nation like you would view Britain as a white nation. I think we're supposed to be, and this is just my opinion. There's not really any reason other than that's what I think of when I think of America. I think of a multicultural nation, not just a white nation like you would a European one. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are from the founding of America. America looks totally different. Like it's not even it's unrecognizable. And I'm not even talking about race or color or anything like that. I'm talking about just the government and the actual foundation
Mm,
of the nation. So think about that. So, irregardless of the H1B1 visas and people coming in or not, America isn't even America. Just by the structure. Heck, did America when it started have the Fed? Uh, no, they had, you know what I mean? Did they have all these, the IRS and all this other stuff? No, the United States didn't have any of that stuff back then. So as America progressed, the government just started getting bigger and bigger and wilder and more controlling. So, I mean, it's not the same America anyways, regardless who's here or who's not here. You know what I mean?
mm,
That's the sad part. So then, you know, allow, people like you said, they've come here from all over. Heck, back in the day, people want to make race a thing, but dude, back in the day, the Irish were looked upon as below stuff. The Italians were looked at below
yeah,
stuff. I mean,
Germans,
dude,
especially
and
around World War II.
exactly, you can't get any more white than Irish, and yet they were looked at as, you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So that's just a ridiculous thing that people want to always bring up because they always it's all again, we know at the end of the day, the core proponent of it all is about division. Okay. Let's split everyone up in any type of group, whether it's race or sex or this or that, whether you're left or right, whether you're liberal or conservative, whether you're whatever. And that's really the problem. See, that's the problem because ultimately we know, Kyle, that ultimately we can only really have unity in one, and that's in Christ, period. Now we know that because other than him, it's just going to be constant division. Oh, look at them. Look at this. This isn't working because of that. Da da da. But at the base of it all, America is not the same at all as it was founded and started, and it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the actual system that's been, basically building up throughout all these decades and years. And it's sad because basically the system, whatever that system is, whether it's from outer forces or just the country, from the inside, it's yeah, it's totally different and it's in a sense it stinks compared
Hmm.
to what it was. And I'm not talking
Interesting.
again, and I'm not talking about the treatment of people. No, I'm talking about the actual system, the country itself.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I think culture plays a role in how the system has changed over time, but I don't know what to what degree or you know that kind of thing. That would be a really that would be a much deeper question to dive into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's kind of where I'm at with the H1 visa thing is that it's like, okay, well, if if the goal is to try to bring over people, to work, and as if assuming that they're assimilating into American culture and whatnot, if eventually they do assimilate into the culture, they it's like, okay, well, now we just have more people that are, mainly from India. Most of the H1B visas are from India. I think India is like 90 something percent or something like that. It's like the
Hmm.
vast majority. And then the second highest is China, was like 5% or something.
Huh.
And then the other like 2% or however much is left is like a bunch of other countries. So they are from all over the world technically, but I think it was like the vast majority are from India.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and it's not all technical jobs. It's not tech industry jobs only. It's cooks and stuff too. Um, line
Yeah.
chefs and and tech industry stuff and other jobs too. So it's a bunch of different areas of the sector, not just STEM fields.
See, the thing is, and you mentioned a good point. The idea is to get people in that will assimilate, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with the culture here, with the country. Problem is though, and it's fact, is that people who come over, they find their own little
Niche.
little cliques, little neighborhoods and whatnot. Oh, look, here's the Dominican neighborhood. Oh, look, here's the Puerto Rican neighborhood. Oh, look, here's the whatever neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at that. That's all throughout America. And so they don't really assimilate. They don't have to learn the language. They don't have to do any of that stuff. Why? Because, hey, they're comfortable in their own little bubble, right? They're comfortable in their own little neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
where they don't have to learn language. They could just keep communicating with their own, fellow people from another country, and then that's it. There's
Yeah,
no
so
assimilation
yeah, that
at all.
definitely happens. I mean, you can even see that in New York. When I went to New York, I saw that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think even if people kind of stick to their own little neighborhoods over time, give it 2, 3, 4, 5 generations, they do start to assimilate. Though it might be slower if they're trying to stick to their own little neighborhoods, but you do have to talk to people outside of your little clique eventually, right? I mean, you talk to customer service, go to the DMV, you do this, do that, do this, do that. There's going to be times where you have to talk to people that are outside of your neighborhood of people that speak the same language. And so eventually over time you do, especially with each new generation, because kids learn other languages much better than adults do. By osmosis, at least. I mean, if you have an adult and a kid put side by side and they're both told to study a different language and do the absolute best that they possibly can, the adult will do better just because they have access to better resources. They can um, devote more time. They can download the apps or whatever. Um, but as far as just by osmosis, kids are more prone to language development in the first 5 years of life than they are after that. I mean, it's like a big drop off in language learning after about 5 years of age. So with each generation, they're more and more learning English and learning about the culture, eating hot dogs, going to baseball games.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
and I agree with you there. But I'm just saying, other than that part, though, if it's people just coming over that aren't here for decades and generations or whatever,
Hmm.
they there's no assimilation. It's very little, is what I mean. You know,
Yeah.
unless, like you said, obviously, if there's a kid, then they have to go to school.
Hmm.
You know, they're gonna have to interact. They're gonna have to learn the language. That's something. Yes, that's a given. But I mean, on the other front, where it's like you have adults
Hmm.
who make no attempt, literally, to assimilate. They're just happy with their, with the people, and I know because I know people like that. Okay, quite a handful. So just saying.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's a
And
good
I'm
point.
not saying it's easy to do. That's the thing. It's not easy. It's difficult. You
Yeah.
don't know the language, and you're around people who aren't really trying to even like help you or encourage you to learn the language
Yeah.
or
It is.
to
I would say it's actually easier to some degree if you are around people who speak the same language, because it can seem so overwhelming, I would think, if you're the only one. Like if I were to go to Russia by myself, totally different language, totally different characters for the language, and I didn't have anybody to help me, good luck. It's
right.
sink or
But then
swim, and
if
I would
you
sink.
right, but if you've had family there for a long time and you go and they're still not really assimilating, I mean, you know, what do you say about that? That's like, okay, you guys have been
Yeah.
here for over a
It's only a matter of
decade.
time, though, before you have to be exposed to it, you know? And each time you are, you assimilate a little bit. You know, it's a slow assimilation. It's a slow fade.
Yeah.
It's a slow fade. So
It really depends on if you want to or not. Period.
yeah,
If you want to,
yeah.
then
That's
it's going to be
you know
faster. If not, then you're not going to, and
that's
it's going to be slower. That's it.
yeah. You know
People
what?
don't
'Cause
care.
I have my own bias in all this because I like other languages. I have learned
Me
little
too.
bits of like 5 to 10 different languages. Spanish I know the most besides English, but you know, little bits of German and other languages. I know a little bit of Korean from the martial arts that I do. So I think I'm coming at it with a bias of like, well, of course they would want to learn the language, but maybe not everybody feels the same way. Maybe some people are like, whatever, I'm not going to learn any other language. The language I speak works just fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. Yeah. I mean, even in other countries. For example, when I was, somewhere else for a little while, I knew someone that was there for years and they barely even knew a few words of that country.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like, what? You've been here for how long? And you don't really even speak the language yet? It's not because they couldn't, probably just because they didn't feel the need to do it.
Hmm.
They were just like, I'm not going to put the effort in.
Can't spell effort without 2 F's.
Yeah, you could. It'd be wrong, though.
uh,
But yeah, the
so
fact is,
yeah,
everyone's in a different situation. So,
that's true.
it's
That's
all
true.
good.
So about AI, I found this article, and it made me think of like what will AI slash robotics accomplish in the next year. So you know, at the time of this, if you are watching this and it's not live, then watch us live if we're still alive, and watch
Good
us
point.
live every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's -4 Greenwich, if I remember right. But yeah, so watch us then if you're not watching this live. But as far as what 2025 holds for us, it's January 2025, and what 25 and maybe even 2026 holds for us. There's this cool article, and I think what I'll do is I'll share this. Go here. Okay, so I go to there and I go here. And I bring this over to here. Okay, so then I do this. Artificial intelligence. Okay, now, there we go. Okay, so I found this article, and it's called Opportunities, Limits, and Ethical Issues, What Scenarios for AI in 2025 by something called Lombard Odier, or is that an ad? I think that's an ad, actually. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay, lombardodier.com. Okay. It sounded like a cologne company or something, maybe, but
Alone.
Cologne. What scenarios for AI? So, yeah, so we have a bunch of different things. ChatGPT, Gemini, XAI, and Cloud. List of
Cool.
conventional agents powered by artificial intelligence, AI. Making headlines grows longer every week. Committed into market equal to reach US dollars 1.34 trillion. That's right, trillion, folks.
Trillion.
Within the next 5 years, tech industry giants are jostling to develop most AI, advanced generative AI model. Stakes should hardly be higher, from defense sector contracts to technology sovereignty, transformation of economies, and labor markets. Pervasive nature of AI is both fascinating and unsettling. Where do we stand in this revolution? Can its development be controlled? Has AI reached maturity? And what are its next major milestones? To explore these questions, we spoke with Alexandra Puze, professor of computational neuroscience
Or
at
whatever.
¿Qué pasa?
Exactly.
University of Geneva and a leading AI expert. His work spans science, foresight, and a profound reflections of the role of artificial intelligence in human evolution. So he defining AI over here, and then assessment of the current state of AI. So currently, as of January 2025, beyond human level for many tasks, like face and object recognition, robots can, or AI, I guess, can recognize faces and objects better than people can.
You
and of
can't
course,
see me.
hey, do you know whose girlfriend is the loneliest girl in the world? John Cena's.
Dang.
Because when they go out on a date, nobody can see him.
Uh,
Just looks like she's dining alone.
nice.
This is an intermediate stage on the way to a more general AI that will increasingly human-like and capable of greater autonomy. Timescales are much shorter these days, somewhere between 10 and 50 years. Not that long ago, people were talking in terms of many decades. Isn't 50 years many decades? I would consider 50 years many decades. Like 5 decades is many decades, I would think.
Quite a bit of a decade.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the greatest impact over the next few years, apparently, we're going to reach a stage where there will always be several helpers available to us. We'll all have personal assistants to help us plan every aspect of our lives. Anyone trying out ChatGPT can see that it is already a useful assistant. In the future, AI will become more personalized. It remains to be seen what sort of relationship we will develop with these assistants on a personal level. When it comes to robots, though, there are physical constraints. Robotics is not yet sufficiently far advanced. The other issue is that it uses a great deal of energy. Technology isn't quite there yet in that respect. Where it is, it will revolutionize entire industries, such as healthcare with the use of assistants in nursing homes, for example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it goes on to say some other things and stuff. Who's making the most progress? America's making the most progress, and we want it to be that way because if some other countries would be going at it, then it might be bad. What advantages and what dangers? So advantages are obvious, apparently. So this is something that I don't think I would agree with. We are advancing one stage further in evolution. I think humans are continuing to devolve over time.
Yeah.
I think we used to be smarter.
That's a given. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. The only reason any humans seem smart today is because they're just working. They're basically just building upon the technology that already came before them.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's new. I mean, imagine the stuff people who didn't have all this technology and advancement, man. They were smart. Wow, fresh minds, man. You know, thinking clearly, nature, God. You know, like, yeah.
Yeah, it seems really weird to me that we assume that we are smarter than our ancestors. Especially when you have very obvious examples of highly technical abilities of the past. I mean, you just look at the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It continues to baffle scientists because when you look at the precision of the rock, it should not have been possible for them to create rock slabs that fit together so precisely as they do with the technology that we think they had in that day and age.
Yeah, I saw a documentary once, just a part of it, where literally it said, I believe they believed the Egyptians had some type of a machine, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to actually cut or make those measurements precise like that. Stuff like that you think like, what the heck, really? You want to talk about
Well,
advanced?
some sort of, machine thing that maybe we wouldn't recognize as a machine, but they did. Just like the pyramid itself, historically, it's been seen as a tomb for the longest time, but there are no pharaohs or any, significant dead people in there at all. It wasn't used as a pharaoh's tomb. It was. I think. I don't. I forgot who it was that I was like watching a video about or whatever. But they when you look at the structure of it, it looks like it's harnessing energy, and so they were using energy. There's these aquifer mm,
Aqueducts?
aqua, what's the aquifers, like under the ground and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Like the water systems under the ground?
Aqueducts. No?
No, that's like a man-made. No, like the
Oh.
natural water systems
Oh,
that are below.
natural. Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Um, so like all these like flows of water under the ground and stuff, they were harvesting some of that, and they were harvesting so you're harvesting the energy from water flow, like hydroelectric energy, and they
Oh,
were harvesting some other kinds of energy too. I think the way it worked is like the water would actually come up into the chambers, and then they could, harvest the energy from that, from like the pressures and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, there's like a whole thing on it, on how it was
Harvest.
actually like a power plant is what it was.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Anyways,
Energy
speaking of
harvester.
interesting and energy, this is the reason why it'll be a while before robotics can really take off. So blah 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 blah. So we have it looks like what he's referring to here is the robotics that we have will be on the order of, maybe the best we can do right now is 100 watts.
Yeah.
Comparatively for what a human body can do with 20 watts. Oh no, sorry. Order of 100 watts for the human body, 20 watts for the brain. The energy of what it takes for AI, like robotics, to do things is way more than that. I don't know to what level, um, but it's a lot more. Like the amount of energy that it takes to make robots do what humans can do with 100 watts for the body and 20 watts for the brain. It takes way more energy to replicate that with robotics. So robotics is still not anywhere close to outstripping humans in terms of energy efficiency. So there's
Okay.
that.
So yeah, that makes sense why it would be a little longer than they say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, some sectors using AI better than others. Using AI in healthcare areas. That's interesting. But it
Hmm.
seems like it's not going to replace, it's going to come alongside more and more as we go. That's what seems to be the case. Is that it's going to continue to be better and better at helping us do what we do in our jobs.
Gotcha.
Ooh, 2035. Speaking of future,
Huh.
he's still this expert, whoever this was, sees it that it's hard for machines to be replacing us, but AI will have transformed our daily lives. Assistants are everywhere, available to help us on our smartphones. Don't think it will go any further than that.
Hmm.
There's a lot of saturation already. Yeah, so I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's too scared about what, especially what robotics is going to be able to do in the near future. AI looks like it's going to just become better and better at assisting us, but this is just one person's opinion. Even though they're an expert, they're just one person with an opinion. At the end of the day, they could be wrong, or their timelines could be off, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mercy. So, yeah. Thought that was a helpful
Cool.
article. Amanda commented and said, boo, lol. I don't know what that was referring to, because I wasn't looking at the comment section until just now. But maybe she'll hear me
She
and
doesn't like
tell
the
me.
idea of AI not taking over fast enough.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings us to religion. We can go back to the California fires. Oh, the John Cena joke. She didn't like my John Cena joke? I thought it was funny.
Because she likes John Cena. That's why. He
Maybe.
wants to see him, not see him. Oh,
And yeah, boo AI. Okay,
okay.
we have a real naysayer over here today. She's just booing everything. We should talk about Jesus next. That'll get her.
Force her to not boo.
Yeah. So with the thumbnail that I created, I was thinking about talking about the Kalam cosmological argument, but then I want to maybe come back to the California fires discussion because you had an interesting take on it, and I've heard people talk about God's judgment before, but I
Someone
wanted
brought
to
that
hear
up.
you talk about that.
Yeah, someone brought it up, and I was like, interesting. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, God is sovereign, so obviously the fires are happening, right? And but then again, it makes me think of two things. A, all those two major hurricanes that hit Florida this year or
Mm-hmm.
last year, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty recent. A few months ago. Boom. So it's not like I think people want to look at California in a certain light because the prominence of certain things out there, right? But at the same time, not realizing that, dude, no one's innocent. Everyone's guilty, whether it's California or Florida or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, even with the hurricanes that came straight through Florida, what happened? Like North Carolina or South Carolina got like flooded like crazy. Like they got major damage.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really. I think God has I know God has a purpose and plan in all that He's doing, but to say that it's a specific for like judgment, I mean, yeah, no,
Yeah,
because
it
also,
seems like it's very hindsight is
yeah,
2020 kind of thing.
or 2020, yeah, 2020,
2024,
24,
2025.
2024, 2025, 2026, man. Hey, the thing is, though,
Um,
check it out. Another thing that came to mind is this: when Jesus was addressing some of his disciples there and he was talking, that one story about the tower, Siloam or something, where that thing fell and people were killed. And what did he say? He said basically, hey, don't think that something about, look, good and bad happens to good and bad people. You know? Remember? You remember that story?
no.
Yeah, it's a very
There's
interesting.
only
It's in the
ever been one
Gospels.
good person though.
Right, but the point is though, his point
Yeah.
was, look, you got disaster happening to
The
both.
rain falls on the just and the unjust.
Right, but there was an actual tower. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up. Hold on.
There's the Tower of Babel. I don't know what tower you're talking about. Other than the Tower of Babel, I can't think of any like specifically named towers.
Can't believe you don't know that, man. Check it out. Oh, Siloam. I was right. See,
The
why did Jesus
pool?
mention that
The
the Tower of
Pool of
Siloam?
Siloam?
No, check it out. So Jesus mentions the Tower of Siloam in the context of answering a question about a recent tragedy in Jerusalem. Some people told Jesus about a group of Galileans who had come to the temple to sacrifice, and Pontius Pilate slaughtered them, probably due to a public disturbance the Galileans were causing.
Hmm.
The men who related the story to Jesus may have been trying to lure him into taking sides, either for or against Pilate, or they may have simply been curious. Anyways, so he says this: Jesus, do you think that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans because they suffered this way? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish. Now, he goes on to say, Jesus continues the conversation by mentioning another current event, this one involving the Tower of Siloam. Or those 18 who died when the Tower of in Siloam fell on them? Do you think they were more guilty than all the others living in Jerusalem? I tell you, no. But unless you repent, you too will all perish. Dang, that's powerful.
Hmm.
And now, my friend. That's in
Yeah.
Luke. But yeah,
Huh.
interesting, right?
I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
That's why when
Yeah, that is
when
interesting.
that's why when I heard that person say about the judgment of God, I'm like, is God
Could be.
sovereign? Yeah. Is that happening now under his? Yes, of course. But is it a specific like, because they're worse than us here? Like, nah, dude. Everyone's bad. Everyone's wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there are instances where a natural disaster could be the direct result of God's judgment upon that place. However, I don't think it's possible for us to know which natural disasters are specifically the result of God's judgment versus those that God is allowing for his greater purposes in the grand scheme of how the world is unfolding. So
Right.
that's my thought, is that we can speculate, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
Unless God
Exactly.
comes down and says, "Okay, look, this one was me. This one was just I just kind of let that happen." You know?
Well, I mean, either way, it's under God's. I mean, God can stop it. I mean, either way.
Right.
But the
Right.
point,
Allowing it versus causing it.
but I know
Right.
what you're saying because even okay, let's say even if obviously it's God has his providence over all things, but let's say for example, okay, the fires we know are going on, but maybe he has obviously different purposes. Like, one event can be for so many billions of different purposes. We can't even comprehend how awesome, I mean, we've seen it. One thing happens, yet somehow that one thing affects people's lives in so many different ways. It's amazing how he does that. But yeah, so yeah, does he have a purpose? Yes, but like you said, is it a specific judgment that's I don't know. We don't know that. You're right. We don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. Because no
Yeah, it
one's
is
better than
interesting.
anybody else.
I saw somebody was interviewed about the fires, and they mentioned something like, "Yeah, it's all the gays." It was like,
You see, that's what I'm saying.
did you see that too?
I didn't see it. No, but
The
that's what
guy
I'm
was
talking
like,
about. That's
"Well,
what
I
people
know why
think.
the fires are happening. It's because of all the gays." I couldn't stop laughing, and the interviewer was like, "Oh, great!" They were like, "Oh, what?" Like they did a major like roll your eyes kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hysterical. He was just so candid. I know exactly why it's happening. So
Why?
that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
And it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
Oh,
know. Like,
believe me,
could be.
there's a ton here, a ton everywhere now.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, I would imagine there's more in California though, since they legalized it sooner than we did. Like, I literally had a coworker who like went to live in California with her friend long enough so that they could get married. Uh, and then she came back here. So like, I guess she was a teacher, and then she left with her you know partner, and then they got married in California, and then they came back like 3 years later or something. They
hmm.
came back. Yeah, that was interesting. I had to like co-teach with her. That was weird.
Huh.
Yeah, quite the story for another time.
All
um,
right.
but
But yeah.
yeah, so that is interesting. It could be God's judgment. I think it's more probable than other you know specific natural disasters. I think there's a good chance, like let's say talking about hurricanes, Hurricane Katrina. I think there's a very good chance that that could have been God's judgment because of the area that it affected. It's like, oh, yeah, because
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
like,
Bourbon Street. Oh,
yeah, there's certain areas over there that are just wicked. I mean, they're practicing all kinds of satanic things,
that's true.
the
Evil
voodoo
voodoo
and
and
all
all
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and Mardi Gras itself. I mean, the Mardi Gras
Oh,
festival I hear is like we have Gasparilla here in Florida, and Gasparilla is pretty bad. I mean, I haven't been in several years because it's gotten so bad, but I hear Mardi Gras is worse. So it's like
yeah.
just so much debauchery and sensual, this and that, and yeah, just bad stuff. Lots of bad stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think there's a very good chance. I wouldn't say it's outright, definitely it was God's judgment upon, New Orleans. But because I think ultimately we don't know because God didn't say so, in His Word. But I think there's a good chance that something like that was God's judgment. So yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, ultimately, I think all that stuff occurs and happens. Yeah, obviously under God's hand, but also like he uses that, you know, maybe he uses that to wake people up,
yeah, could be.
just to show, hey, you think you have your lives under control? Well, no, you don't. Boom.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess for the last thing that we wanted to wrap up with, the Kalam cosmological argument. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, been a
Okay,
while, but yes.
what's up?
I said, yeah, I've heard of it a little while ago, huh? Oh yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know why that came to mind. I think because I was looking at, I think John Lennox and William Lane Craig and this other guy who's like a doctorate in chemistry who's also a renowned Christian apologist. I had never heard of him, but apparently he was, fairly well known. They were in like this private, but it was aired on YouTube or whatever, I guess. Like dinner thing with some like young leaders and pastors and stuff like that to talk about issues of morality and God in the institutions and the status of all that and everything. It was very interesting. I recommend it a lot. But I think it was William Lane Craig that brought up the Kalam cosmological argument because he's a huge proponent of both it in general and using it in argumentation. And I think it's really good and it's simple. It's not a very complicated argument. It's essentially just um, two premises and a conclusion, and so it's essentially a setup for a transitive statement. If A then B, and if B then C, then if A then C. Essentially, like it's a really simple argument, and it essentially shows that we have to have a God. So it's not a statement of Christianity specifically, but it's a statement that really kind of squashes atheism pretty well. So I like it a lot. When you're having that conversation of like, well, God doesn't even exist. It's like, well, actually, he necessarily exists. So I just think it's really cool.
Cool.
For the listeners out there, do you do you know of it, or do you want to tell our listeners what what it is exactly?
All right, you're the one that latest read about it and stuff, so
Okay.
I don't know what their
Um,
specific
so I
takes
might
are
not
on
get
it.
this exactly right either, but premise one is that if the universe began to exist, then there must be an outside transcendent cause. That's the first and probably the premise that's the most argued or tried to be argued against. If the universe began to exist, then it must have an outside transcendent first cause. Premise 2, the universe began to exist. Therefore, we must necessarily have an outside transcendent cause of the universe coming into existence.
Yeah,
Um,
because if there's something created, there must have been something that created it outside of it.
yeah, specifically that life cannot come from non-life, and in this case, we're talking about matter itself. Matter cannot come from non-matter, and that is what the the argument of the Big Bang actually is that from what they call a singularity, which is a infinitesimal point in space with no mass, we were able to get all known mass that's in the universe, everything. So it was a singularity of 4 dimensions. Really, it was a 4 dimensional singularity. So time and length and width and height were all encased within the singularity. So matter and time began to exist at that singularity when the Big Bang happened or whatever. And for anybody listening that's young Earth, I'm not speaking from an old Earth perspective necessarily. If you look at Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." So if you want to call it a Big Bang, or if you don't, it doesn't really matter that much. In the beginning, the universe began to exist. Now, the details of that is where people split hairs, but I think it's been so proven that the universe began to exist that no matter where you stand on how and the details of all that, you really can't make a good argument for an infinite universe. I just don't. There doesn't seem to be a good argument for it.
Deniers of that are deniers of logic.
Yeah, because even if you try to say that we're living in a simulation, then we had to come from either another simulation or the actual universe or whatever. Like these days, we can kind of imagine somebody creating a whole simulated universe, and maybe there's a person in that simulated universe that becomes self-aware, and they're like, oh well, am I really here, and blah blah blah, and it's like, well then, are we really here? But even if you were to try to make an argument like that, you would still have to go back. You go back far enough and you would get to the original, so to speak. That's the non-simulated universe. So even the simulated universe argument, it has to go back to something tangible eventually. You can't just have an infinite loop on that. So, yeah, even if you tried to make that argument, you'd have to go back far enough and you get to that. And then as far as the infinite universe itself goes, like if you were to try to say that like gravity would eventually bring everything back to the singularity and then it would explode again, just the science for that just doesn't hold up. There aren't any physicists that are worth their salt that believe that that is actually happening, that that's actually what the universe is doing, or that there's like a parallel universe in which like we keep swapping in and out with or something. Or that kind of thing. Even if you were to try to use a parallel universe, it's like, okay, well, there would have to be a beginning between the two of us, or however many parallel universes there are. So no matter,
right.
I've heard a lot of objections to it, but none that are really worth their salt. So, yeah, the Kalam cosmological argument. It's very good and very simple for a proof of why God has to exist, why he must necessarily logically, you know, his existence is a logical necessity. Say it like that. So
yeah, no, totally agreed. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everybody knows God exists.
mm-hmm.
They all know. It's just like the Bible says. Everybody knows. It's just a matter of being dead or alive, and in Christ. That, we know we
Yeah,
can have all the evidence
us
in the
being dead
world,
or
and
alive. Yeah.
yeah. So we know we could have all. I mean, if they look at the universe and the scientific factors involved, they know. Okay, yes, there's no way this just happened
Mm-hmm.
out of nothing. And you're right. Life can't come from non-life, people. Sit in front of a rock here the rest of your life. You know what? That's going to stay a rock, buddy. It ain't going to start talking to you. Well, you might start going crazy thinking it's talking to you, but guess what? There ain't no blood or anything running through it. It's just, a rock,
Yeah.
dude. So
Yeah,
stop
and
acting like,
irreducible complexity.
It's
There's certain
foolishness.
mechanisms in organisms that cannot be reduced past a certain point. Like the like when you have multicelled organisms that travel by way of flagella, it's essentially a rotary motor. If you dissect these microorganisms that travel through fluids using flagella, they the mechanism by which the flagella moves, it spins, and it spins by way of basically a rotary motor. I mean, the when we look at a simple rotary motor, the mechanisms are very similar to how the organism is structured in order to make their tails spin to propel them through fluids. And they've been around for however long, and the rotary motors have only been around for like 100 years. So go
Right.
figure, right? But you can't reduce it past a certain point. If you break down a motor into just its parts, the parts are useless by themselves for an organism. You know, so it's useless to have just half of the motor. So there's no way that it could develop the motor over time, because the parts by themselves are not useful for anything. So it wouldn't be able to um, evolve those parts separately and then somehow at some point evolve enough of the parts so that the motor would just kind of assemble itself, so to speak.
Any
Um,
type of biological entity can't like they can't it can't survive without every other piece. It's impossible.
yeah.
Even a human, like the heart, you need blood, you need the vessels, you need the plasma, you need every single piece already there, or it ain't working.
Hmm.
People, you already know this. So again, no logic if you don't believe that. Sorry,
Oh yeah.
illogical people. But that's
Yeah.
what you get, right?
We
What does
could
the
we
Bible
could have
say?
a whole conversation about this next time, like the
Well,
evolutionary stuff.
oh,
Fascinating.
that's hilarious. Yeah. What does the Bible say though? Psalm 14:1. The fool says in his heart, there is no God.
Ah, yes, I
So
did know
yes,
that
there
one.
you
I just
go.
didn't know the
The
address.
actual definition of a fool. And again, what's funny is back in Greek, back in Greece, with Socrates and all the philosophers who were, high IQ people, they used to literally, you know, they used to make fun and mock atheists. They used to actually shun them and kick them out like, man, y'all are, yeah, pitiful. Get out of here. We don't want your idiotic input. No, they seriously, they did that back then.
Hmm.
If they didn't know, well, now you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's like the cool kids are
Yeah.
atheists. Yeah, I knew some kids that were atheists in high school, and they always thought they were such cool. They were like hipsters or whatever, you know. It's like, oh, I'm so ahead of the times, not
Right.
believing
So
in God.
intellectual.
It's like, whatever, bro. When you're sitting alone in your lunchroom reading your Satanism Bible, cry me a river.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyways,
Well,
so
cool, man.
yeah. But ultimately, just knowing that God exists is not enough. We have to not only know that He exists, but believe in Him. And not just believe, as in believe, things about Him or that He is, but believe in Him.
Well, believe him. You have to believe him,
You have to believe
actually.
Him.
Believe him. You
Yeah.
know? If he said, hey, look to Jesus. This is my son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. And when people ask Jesus in John 6, hey, what must we do to do the works of God? What did Jesus say? Hey, this is the work of God, that you believe in the one whom he sent. Talking about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then what did Jesus say? If you believe, okay? Now again, this is true belief, okay? This is like once you're born again, and only God does that, but check it out. In James it says, what's the point to having faith if there's no works, right? People
Mm.
take that and mix it up thinking, oh, well, see, you got to have works to be saved. No, that's not what it says. James is talking about if you have faith, that's going to be proven by the fact that all of a sudden, guess what? You're going to have a love and then a desire for Christ, for God, right? to want to obey him and such. You know, that's faith. So you can't just say, yeah, you can say, oh, yeah, I believe. But then you still live your life as if you literally don't know him because you don't, and he doesn't know you. See, I'm not talking about perfection, people. I'm talking about, actually being born again and actually having a desire for him, which, again, is supernatural. Only he does that. Only Christ saves. Amen.
Amen. All right, y'all. Well, with that, we'll wrap things up and we'll catch you on the flippity flip. Next couple episodes, we'll have to talk about some Hunger Games stuff and
That would be
talk about
interesting.
life, evolutionary process, old versus young Earth, theories of evolution and the life cycle, and when we talk about the different kingdom, phylum, class, family, order, genus, like all that, and versus when every animal reproduces after its own kind. There's all kinds of things we can get to into that. We could have a whole series on creation versus evolution. But yeah, so all those are in the pipes, ready to come out over the next few weeks and months or whenever we decide to roll those things out. So stay tuned for more to come. But yeah, check us out. We are on Patreon. You can go check out our link, Patreon, if you want to support the ministry. And if you want a clear gospel message, we try to always have it in our podcast, but we also have a helpful link that is down below. Are You a Good Person is the title of the article. And it's by Living Waters. Ray Comfort does a pretty good job. Probably one of the best evangelists of our day, really. He just does a great job at what he does. So go check it out. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Happy 2025.
Toodaloo.